Hey guys, Deathletter Magic here, and I am glad to announce the least surprising ban announcement in a while. Time Warp is now banned in Historic, and they claim that they announced this yesterday. I sure as hell didn't see it. I mean, nobody even messaged me about this until this morning, so I'm not buying it. But the effective date of it being banned on Arena is today, June 10th. They are not even waiting a week. And after people looked up the calculated results, the statistics from the Strixhaven Championship Historic format from June 4th through the 6th, everybody was like, okay, well, that's going to get a ban because anything that stands out more than a 55% win rate against the majority of the field is going to get the ban hammer. That just is their benchmark, among other things, I will say. I mean, they have been known to wait and see if the rest of the decks adjust their cards, or, you know, some decks go down in popularity, some go up, and it just kind of fixes itself. Because if you react too quickly, you're just going to lower variance and progress towards change, which you don't want to do in Historic or Modern. It's a non-rotating format that you want all the change you can get. Allegedly, that's why they let the Eldrazi Winter go on for as long as they could, but nothing ever adjusted. There was no adjustment. That deck was too much. I mean, clear as day. So, yep, Time Warp is banned. It is a 5-cost sorcery in blue that says target player takes an extra turn after this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you waiting for me to say and then exile it from your graveyard? Yeah, that's what it should say. That's not what it does say. I'm so glad they grabbed a crowbar and just jammed Time Warp into the Historic format. That was such a good idea among everything else in the Mystic Archive and the anthologies. Worked out great. Totally didn't ruin the format forever. I mean, Historic Anthology 4 wasn't that bad, but 1, 2, and 3 were just completely and utterly insane. So, alright, the number one deck played was Is It Phoenix's. 1 in 3 people were running it, and it had a 51.9% win rate against the meta. Or the field, or the other decks that people commonly brought, or however you want to phrase it. Not bad. Like I said, they don't ban people, or they don't ban cards until above 55, and even then they kind of look at other factors. But the deck literally called Jeskai Turns, you'll never guess what card that runs, had a 61.4% win rate against everything. And that number is actually artificially low. You're going to see why in a second, and it's actually really funny what the reason is. It uses one card to win, which means it painted a target on its back. But we'll get to that. So, against the number one deck, as far as what people played, most commonly played, I should say, Is It Phoenix's, it had a 60.2% win rate. That right there, I mean, that's bad. If it won against everything but lost against, like, the other top 2 decks, they might think, okay, well, we'll wait and see. I mean, we're not going to ban all 3, and we're not going to ban 1 and make the deck variance down to 2 unbeatable decks. We'd rather it just be 3, and the other ones try to catch up. But no, this stomped first place, and it's in second place. By the way, can we stop calling it Jeskai Turns, dude? Jeskai was like years ago. New players don't know what the hell that means. They shouldn't have to learn. It should just be something they know right off the bat. I mean, I've said this before. If you say red, white, and blue, then there you go. Or if you just say America, people are like, oh, okay, red, white, and blue, gotcha. I didn't look too close at the deck list, but it's kind of weird that they had red instead of black. Usually it's white, black, blue for this type of deck, just for the maximum control while they cover their infinite turns or just whatever they do. I haven't followed Historic too much. I know vaguely that deck is incredibly obnoxious. I think it uses that new Keldheim extra turn card too, so it's really, really annoying. And the only deck that this lost to is the most annoying deck in Standard right now by a long shot. So alright, just reading it across the field here so you can get a feel for it. Versus Jund Food, the third most played deck, it has an 81.8% win rate. What? Jeskai Control, also known as America Control, 66.7% win rate. Versus Mono Black, 60% win rate. Versus Selesnya Company, 50%. Didn't see that coming. Versus Gruul Agro, it's 66.7%. Yes, I say Agro. I'm from Wisconsin. Grab a bag of dragon milk and get over it, ya guys. I mean, don't you say the word aggressive like I just did, so it would be aggro anyway. Anyway, against that deck, 66.7% win rate, and against everything else, with one exception, 64.9%. So just stomps on any other creative rogue decks. Terrible, absolutely terrible. The Is It Phoenix deck got crushed by the non-meta. It was well into the red. But wait, there's one more deck. Jeskai Turns has a 16.7% win rate against Jeskai Magma Opus, which is basically counter spells incarnate. It is the most obnoxious, toxic, ban-worthy pile of garbage in Standard right now, and in Historic it's even worse. They just counter everything, get a whole bunch of lands and treasures out, and then run you over with a dragon or a Resurrecting Phoenix or something, or just blast you with spells and clone them. It's unbelievably annoying. You can't resolve shit against that deck. So what that deck would do is just wait until you play an extra turn card and then just counterspell it. They'd make sure they always have a counterspell for that, and without the extra turns, Jeskai turns doesn't work, shockingly enough, which is why they banned Time Warp. I mean, there's no surprise there whatsoever. But that's the thing, okay, we have an anomaly outlier here where it just couldn't beat the deck at all. It's like the lowest win rate on this entire chart that I'm looking at. If you ignore that one, the win rate goes up to like 65-70% on average. That's anomalous. That's a little too high right there. So like I said, the 61.4% win rate average is actually really misleadingly low, and it's only driven down because it loses to one deck, and it loses badly. By the way, shout out to the Everything Else Rogue deck category, which had a 45.7% win rate against the field. That is not bad. It would have been a couple percent higher without the turns deck, which means, you'd be flirting with like 47, 48, 49%, maybe 50, 51, who knows? Yeah, that means that anything somebody could pull out of their ass in Historic is just as good as anything that's, quote, in the meta, according to the, quote, analysts and professionals. That's how you know the format's healthy, although I'm not comfortable with the power level or some of the obnoxious cards in, like, any of the top decks. I just don't like the format Historic. But looking at these numbers, once they get rid of the turns deck and possibly the Phoenix deck in the future, just saying, that one does look a little much. We're looking at a pretty balanced meta where you can get away with anything. And that, I mean, that's nice. That's like the only reason to keep playing Arena right now. I can't stand Historic, but some people that are used to playing Modern and want to play a cheaper version of it that's practically free, I mean, more power to you. Go for it. I like slower pace, lower power fun with more decisions and, more shots at cards and more turns and all that. So basically Brawl, but Brawl is kind of crap right now in every format too, unfortunately. It's all just that Rainbow Road free casting bullshit, and yeah, no thanks. So let's read the reasoning behind this, as if you don't already have a grasp on it. When Strixhaven was released, we expected to see significant changes in the Historic metagame to the host of powerful Mystic Archive cards. Yes, you added basically 61 cards when you normally add them like, what, 25 or 22, 15 at a time? I think we've had different numbers from Historic anthologies. Yeah, 61's a lot, but I mean, some of those cards were like literally like standard cards. I mean, they're just staples. They weren't even good. But a couple of them were, like Time Warp. So they go on to say, in the recent Strixhaven Championship Tournament, 5 out of the top 8 and all of the top 4 Historic decks were Jeskai turns. Oh my gosh, those final games must have been like actual torture to watch, if they even bothered to stream them this time. So 5 of the top 8 and all of the top 4. That deck's unbeatable. It's just that simple. Yeah, when you don't let your opponent play the game and you just take a bunch of extra turns, that does tend to make it easy to win. I don't know if you noticed that or not. It's almost like we've had this exact scenario before. Sounds familiar. Anyway, yeah, prominently featured Time Warp. In addition to the results of this event, our ladder play data from Historic also shows this to be an extremely powerful deck that is challenging for many other decks to disrupt and boasts very few bad matchups. Yeah, 1. The answer is 1. It's not very few, it's the number 1. Few kind of implies like, oh, there's a couple. No, it's 1. There is a singular exception, Wizards, admit it, come on. Hey, however you want to try and pad it, at least they're taking action. Though we often like to see how the metagame adjusts to tournament results like these, told you, when the deck involved has play patterns that prevent the opponent from playing the game. Holy shit, they actually said it. I didn't think they said it, which is why I said it, but they said it, and I'm happy they said it. Wow, so yeah, when the play patterns prevent the opponent from playing the game, and when our data suggests that it lacks a significant number of bad matchups, we favor acting quickly. Why don't you favor not printing this bullshit in the first place? I mean, wouldn't that be like a preventative measure instead of a reactive measure? Wouldn't that be smarter, Wizards? Are you listening? Are you awake? Are you even there doing your job? Hello? Yeah, because they all watch my channel. I know a couple higher ups there do, actually. For these reasons, Time Warp is banned in Historic. More broadly, the Strixhaven Championship Historic metagame was clearly dominated by blue-red based decks with Izzet, Phoenix, and Jeskai control, also proving to be both popular and successful. Yes, and people really don't like infinite resurrections out of the graveyard, or really anything to do with the Izzet Guild because of Storm and spell spamming bullshit. Plus, one of the two colors is blue. I mean, you're already on most people's bad side because of that. They should just delete blue from the game. Would anybody even give a crap? Anybody who's not an asshole? So much of the discussion is centered on the power of the Mystical Archive editions. Yeah, before they came out, people were warning you about that. It's almost like the entire community is smarter than you people making the decisions. Anyway, most notably, Brainstorm. You mean the Brainstorm that's banned in like every format? And so is Ponder, which is almost identical. And so is Preordain, which is almost identical. It's like, are you new to this? Was this news to you? That cards like that are problematic? Brainstorm is restricted in Vintage. Do you know how absolutely broken you have to be to get restricted in Vintage? Ponder is banned in Modern and restricted in Vintage. Preordain, arguably the weakest among them, is banned in Modern. So they're actually saying that that's like news to them, that it was a bad idea to purposely knowingly put Brainstorm in Historic. Wow. I mean, actually, wow. Greatest card game run by the biggest morons. Isn't that generally paraphrasing what the phrase has been for the last couple decades? So the addition of these cards is something that we have been monitoring closely. You wouldn't have had to monitor shit, and you wouldn't have broken all this crap in the first place if you wouldn't have put them in. Stop pushing the limits in card design. Stop pushing the limits by injecting crazy shit into formats that don't need it. This isn't that hard, Wizards. You guys keep screwing up. You've been banning more cards than you banned in the entire history of the game in just the last 3 or 4 years. I think it's time to pump the brakes and be a little bit more cautious, don't you think? So they say both decks provide more opportunities for an opposing deck to counter their strategies, and we see multiple other top-tier decks that show strong records against one or both. I mean, that is true, but from what I saw, the decks that would typically be able to, theoretically, but not yet, put pressure on those types of decks are really, really toxic decks. Like just Red Rush turn 4 garbage. It's like, yeah, it's putting pressure on a control Izzet deck with Phoenixes, but nobody likes Red Rush. It's been problematic since Amonkhet. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And if you're about to say, but that's what Red does, Des, well, the entire community hates it, so maybe it's time to rethink what Red does. Red does shit with dragons too. Just saying. It's not all 2-cost hasters. You know, it does more than that. But yeah, currently the decks pressuring it aren't that bad, but honestly, Jeskai Magma Opus, there is no excuse for that existing. They need to ban it immediately. And Jeskai Control with that stupid Sharknado, just that deck can go right back to hell. And with the amazing Jund Food win rate of 38.6%, I don't think people are going to be playing that anymore, so it's just going to be Izzet and Jeskai. It's going to be those 3 decks. I think we're going to see another ban very shortly. So they go on to say, okay, neither of these, well, it's really 3 decks, demonstrated win rates at the same level as Jeskai turns. Because of this, we think a wait and watch strategy is best here to see how the metagame adapts to the removal of Jeskai turns. I mean, I guess I'd give it a 90% chance of going to a very bad place, but okay, if you want to bet on that 10%, because every time you make a ban announcement, you outright piss people off, because then they lose their deck. I guess they don't want to piss off 3 times as many people, but, you know, whatever. I'm all about just like, fix it. It's a really new format. Just aggressively ban stuff. Tell people, hey, I mean, you didn't even buy the damn cards. They usually give you a wild card refund. It's like, just get over it and build something else. My gosh. You know how many bans there were in the first 2 years of Modern? Depending upon how you measure it, it's like 20 to 30, I think. It was, I mean, they were like, this is a new format, and when something comes up, we're going to stomp it out real quick. We can't afford to take 4 years to very slowly, cautiously shape this into something people want to play. No. Look at the active amount of MTG Arena users, and you tell me that that's not an emergency, and that you can afford to, quote, wait and watch after you've already completely abandoned Standard. This is like the 4th ban announcement without even mentioning Standard. And Standard is just on fire right now. Everybody on social media is saying rotate early. I've been saying it for months. So once again, I don't agree with that. I would have taken the other decks out at the same time and just ripped the damn band-aid off, but okay, whatever. So we will be monitoring closely to see how the rest of the metagame can adapt, and we are prepared to take further action soon if we do not see things moving in a positive direction. So hey, hit subscribe if you want to see the next ban announcement. It's going to be pretty quick here, pretty soon after this one. Oh, and I'm still thinking about making a quick video showing how people are saying hacked, but that's not the right term, which is why I want to explain this, but got access to the fact that there was a ban announcement before it was public for the last one. Spoiler alert, they haven't fully fixed the exploit. So if you're interested in that, stick around, hit subscribe, watch for it. I might make it later today or tomorrow or something, because it is very interesting if you're kind of into like tech stuff. So thanks for watching in the meantime. Can't wait for more bans, because everyone puts us closer to something that's playable, and I'll see you guys next time.